And if you believe with me, rise on your feet and let's sing together. Yo, 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 yo.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PATA Summit session that we are looking at, which I'll be looking at the fourth 90, and I'll be your chair for today's session that we are looking at showcasing innovation, homegrown sustainable approaches from frontline health workers, and we're trying to see what is working out there within the proven formative interventions in addressing and overcoming barriers that are facing service delivery and improving and further fostering well-being for our children and adolescents affected by HIV. Today, I'll say good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wherever you are. It's a pleasure for me to be on this call and on this session to chair with three amazing contributors that will be taking us through a number of presentations and experiences that I have got from across their various communities. Our first presenter for the day will be Miss Yolanda Baker, who works with mothers to mothers, and she'll be taking us through her session when the time is right. Our second presenter will be Itumeleng Komanyani, who is also from South Africa and will be taking us through her presentation that I will elaboratively describe. Right, my final presenter will be Dr. Newton Denkole from Zambia, who will be our final presenter. And at this same juncture, allow me to say that today we are looking at the fourth 90 saying from childhood to young adulthood. To help us address this theme, we have three presentations, like I said earlier. And the first presentation will be looking at integrated holistic care beyond ART for children. Our second presentation will be looking at the holistic care beyond ART for adolescents. And then our final presenter will be looking at holistic care beyond ART for young adults. At this exact juncture, allow me welcome Yolande Baker. Yolande Baker is a child protection specialist with demonstrated history of working in non-profit sector and with governments on building appropriate and sustainable child protection systems. Yolanda will be presenting on the integrated holistic care beyond ART or art for children. You're welcome, Yolanda, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Newton, and good afternoon, everyone. And from what I hear, the summit is going really well. So I'm very, very excited to be part of the presentation this afternoon. So as Newton has explained, I will be looking at the fourth 90, and that is particularly for children, and looking at specifically integrated care beyond ART. For children. And when I think of children in the work that we do at the organization called Mothers to Mothers, we focus specifically on children 0 to 9 years. So the presentation that I'll be doing this afternoon will be focusing on that. So with that, let's start now. The first slide, please. Thank you very much. The next slide, please. Thank you. So you've seen the statistics. We know that about 1.5 million children globally in 2022 were living with HIV. We know that annually about 1.2 million children are exposed to HIV. And then we also know that a staggering only 57% of children who are living with HIV are on treatment. And of those children who are on treatment, we know that only about 81% of those children are virally suppressed. And that's in comparison to the 93% of adults globally. That's a global number. We know that regionally those figures are different. And we also know that at a national level, the picture can look even more dire for children. We know that 43% of children under the age of 5 years in low-income countries and mainly sub-Saharan and Asian countries are at risk of suboptimal development and potential stunted growth. And children who are exposed to HIV have an even greater chance of not meeting their developmental milestones. We also know that for children to not meet these developmental milestones could have lifelong ramifications. You know, there's lower achievement in terms of education, and that then in the future projects to lower income, and then their own poor parenting skills also, and the parenting skills of their own, which then leads and potentially can lead to a cycle of intergenerational poverty and deprivation as we move forward. With this in mind, and bearing in mind that we are talking about children who are exposed to HIV, they themselves are either infected with HIV or they are living with caregivers who are HIV positive, and therefore it has its own ramifications. And as we are then focusing more towards or are looking at how children their development is moving forward, we would then like to look at the fourth 90 or 95 for that matter. And with this in mind, a nurturing care framework was agreed upon, and it's a groundbreaking. It looks very simple, but it was actually groundbreaking in the fact that it was globally accepted and was signed on both by global agencies and also at a national level was rolled out. And the whole purpose of the nurturing care framework was to ensure that children who are vulnerable and children who are exposed to HIV have these different components of their needs met. And those, as you will see, look at the fact that they should have access to good nutrition, they should have good health, adequate nutrition, that they should be safe and secure in their environments and in the parenting styles, the responsive caregiving, and that would relate to the relationships that they have with their main caregivers. And then also ultimately, lastly, opportunities for learning. And that would be referring to early stimulating environments for younger children and children who then, and we ensure that children go to school for those who are of school going age. So then, 5 and up from there. So next slide, please. As an organization, the organization that I work for, Mothers to Mothers, we have adopted the Nurturing Care Framework. And our approach is to make sure that this ECD, or the Nurturing Care Framework, is integrated into our work. And our work is very much focused on the child and the caregiver. And in most instances, it's the mother and the baby, or the mother and the young child. So we want to make sure that that is integrated, this Nurturing Care Framework, those 5 components that I've mentioned in the previous slide, that is integrated into the healthcare through RMNCH, and also in the prevention of mother-to-child services that is received at facility and also accessed at the community level. Secondly, our approach is to improve health and the well-being of the children themselves through promoting this optimal development through the Nurturing Care Framework, and specifically looking at children who are exposed to HIV. It's also very, very important for us to make sure that the health and well-being of the pregnant mother, the pregnant woman, the mother, and any caregiver is optimal. Because without having a healthy caregiver, then the children will not be able to access those 5 really critical components of optimal development. Set in this and embedded, these 3 objectives that we have is embedded into a safe and a stimulating environment for the child. So that makes, through that, we ensure that nurturing care is rolled out within the health facilities, it's within the home and within the communities as a whole package, those 4 objectives. The next slide, please. So as an organization, we work through mentor mothers. In other countries, they're called peer mentors. In other countries, they're called community health workers. And what it means for us as an organization to be able to implement those 4 objectives, or to be able to achieve those 4 objectives, is that these women are trained, they are paid, they are fully paid employees of our organization. They are trained, they are supervised to be able to provide all these services. And when I was doing research for this presentation, I'm very, very happy to see that the countries where M2M works is most of the countries are also the countries where the PATA teams are working with healthcare providers, and where you are providing healthcare services to children and caregivers on a day-to-day basis. Next slide, please. And how do we integrate, how do we as an organization operationalize the Nurturing Care Framework? So we talked about healthcare. Our peer mentors are based at facilities, and then we also have peer mentors in the communities. So between the facility-based and the community-based healthcare workers, we peer mentor mothers, we are able to provide HIV testing, treatment, adherence and disclosure, education. And when necessary, we then at the community level identify the households and then refer them for the testing and support with getting them onto treatment, and then support with adherence and disclosure where necessary. We also work very closely with the facilities to ensure that the developmental milestones of the child are assessed on a regular basis. When a community health worker visits a household and the child's developmental milestones have not been assessed, we refer the caregiver to ensure that the milestones are assessed, or if there's some concern over the lack of achievement on the milestones, then we do also refer them for more comprehensive assessment and onto a service provider. And that can either be a developmental delay or a disability in that case. Then there's the growth curve monitoring and the immunizations. Again, when we, the healthcare worker at the facility or at the community, see that none of these different milestones have been assessed or is being routinely assessed, there is referral that happens. But in addition to that, there's also nutritional support. Our community mentor mothers are also trained to be able to conduct nutritional assessments. They can do nutritional education. They talk to breastfeeding women about the importance of exclusive breastfeeding. And then they also support households in establishing vegetable gardens. They link them to food security facilities and agencies to be able to help create a secure source of nutrition for the household. Then in terms of safety and protection, the peer mentors or the mentor mothers conduct safety and hygiene assessments, and that's making sure that the physical environment is safe for the child, that there are no open sources of water, that there isn't an opportunity for the child to fall and develop a serious or sustain a serious injury, and just generally make sure that there's access to safe drinking water and hygiene within the household. We also provide violence prevention education and care to caregivers, and where necessary, we support caregivers of young children to be able to access services if there has been violence that has been experienced. We also support in accessing social grants and birth certificates, which are all very critical sources of tools that the one, for instance, the birth certificate obviously assists the child to be able to access different services, and then the social grant is a source of economic income for the household on top of whatever else might be there. So in terms of education, there's the stimulation activities that are conducted and modeled during household visits. The facility-based mentor mothers also establish play corners at facilities to help model stimulating activities to parents while they are waiting. And then when a child is of school-going age, we ensure that the child is enrolled in school and is actually help the parents to monitor the school attendance and the progress that goes through that. Very importantly, as I had mentioned earlier on, also is parenting, and that impacts on the responsive care that a child would give. And there our community caregivers conduct parenting sessions, and they do that at the facilities also, and then the parenting information sessions that are conducted at community level. The thing
Yolande, Yolande, you have 2 minutes to go.
Thank you. Thanks very much. And then obviously the caregiving, the mental health of a caregiver is really, really important. So next slide, please. Thank you. I'm not going to take you through this. I will leave that to you. I just want to move on to the last slide, please. Last slide. Thank you very much. So as a healthcare worker, you are probably thinking, how am I going to do all of this at a very busy community clinic? But you are already doing so very much. And we can continue to build on that. I'm very happy to work with Patat for us to take this forward. But definitely in terms of the work that you're already doing, you're doing nutrition, you are already assessing and monitoring all these very critical healthcare, and on the community level, you are able to bring some of the activities that we are doing at the community level can also be done at the facility level. And I know that time is always of the essence and you're always short of time, but it's definitely something that can be fitted and be integrated into the services and the education that you're providing to caregivers. I think I will leave it at that. I will leave this list of activities that are done at the facility and at the community, and maybe in questions and answers, we can follow up on that again. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Dumela, Sanibonani, and Jambo. It's an honor to be joining the Patat Summit again. I'm not sure if you can hear me clearly, but I am hoping that everyone can hear me. And I am the Ready Plus project manager on behalf of Frontline AIDS, and very thrilled to be working with a consortium to deliver this program. Some of you who are regular Patarians will have known or will have seen some of our previous presentations. But for today, our focus is really around how the Ready Plus as a program in its design as a project implemented through a consortium, what has been the impact and in what ways could the lessons learned support the work that is done by the health workers as we all aim to reach the fourth 90. Next slide, please. So for those that don't already know Ready Plus or anything to do with Ready, this is a program that is really centered on the nothing without us, nothing for us without us mantra for young people. It is a program centered on ensuring that young people living with and affected by HIV are getting services, and it's a peer-led model. So it's basically one that is premised on that young people who understand and have lived experiences with HIV are the best placed to support other young people that are also living with and affected by HIV. And some of the aims of this project is to make sure that young people are able to make informed decisions about their health and rights, and in a very holistic way that helps us bridge to the fourth 90 around improved quality of life for young people. It is a socio-ecological model. So you will see that, as I go through the aims, it first targets the young people as core to the work that we do. And secondly, looks at making sure that communities and caregivers of these young people are also supported to ensure that this support translates from the health facilities to the homes and the communities where these young people are. It also is a model that works very closely with health providers. And this is really looking at the work that health facilities have in terms of ensuring that beyond just viral load suppression and other health services, there's also that young people are being placed in these facilities to provide that peer support. And most important is really around how do we build capacity of young people to also have the power of to what extent are they experiencing youth-friendly service delivery in health facilities. Another level of this program is to ensure that young people have both the agency and the skills to hold duty bearers accountable. So there's a big component around advocacy where young people are supported to lead their own advocacy work. And I'll share some of the results later on. And then finally, in our aspirations to ensure that young people are seen in a holistic manner, the fifth outcome level is really looking at how do we make sure that young people are seen beyond just their HIV status, for example. And this is the outcome that then links young people into economic empowerment and livelihood opportunities. Next slide, please. So this is a nice summary of the overall theory of change that drives the Ready Plus program. And I am rushing through this just to give you a sense of how the program is structured, because I'd really like to focus on the work with the health providers. So as you can see on this slide, the goal of the Ready Plus project is to ensure that young people living with and affected by HIV, especially those that are from vulnerable and low resource settings, are resilient, empowered, and have the knowledge to ensure that they can speak on issues of bodily autonomy and that they can realize their sexual and reproductive health and rights. Already this goal shows you that one part of the Ready program is that we definitely recognize that young people are more than just their HIV status, that they are holistic sexual beings, and that they need to also be linked into other alternative forms of care in making sure that as we attain the fourth 90, we recognize all these other needs. And I've already spoken to the 5 different levels that have also been, that are being shown on the screen. So who is Ready and who implements the Ready Plus project? So this is a project that, as I mentioned before, is wholly centered on young people. It's a program that is currently implemented in 7 countries, but I'll explain the modalities of that implementation. And it is a program that is implemented through a consortium approach. And the lessons of having different centers of technical expertise has meant that the READY program has really benefited from continuous innovation and improvement towards impactful HIV and SRHR outcomes. So this project is funded by the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, based in Maputo, led by Frontline AIDS in partnership with partners that include Y+ Global, probably listening somewhere. A shout out to Team Zwandiri in Zimbabwe, our partners ADPP in Angola, Congo in Eswatini. I know there's a whole big PATA hub going on there as well at the moment, and obviously with PATA as well as REPSI, who are also our psychosocial support technical provider. As you have already seen, it is a layered model. Basically, have multiple layers in order to target the different needs of young people towards providing a holistic and much better integrated health outcomes. I've already mentioned that it is delivered at an individual, facility, community, as well as policy advocacy levels, reaching that socio-ecological aspirations, and that it is designed to make sure that young people are critical in their resilience building, as well in sustaining the impact of the work. Next slide, please. So, how are we doing the work? I think I'd just like to underscore 3 things. One is that this model is premised on accountability, in that all the partners working on delivering READY+ have to uphold different codes of conduct and standards. And this also includes how we work in the health facilities. For example, what I mentioned earlier around young people having the power to assess youth-friendly services in the health space. It is a project premised on ownership, basically that all of us together own READY+, as well as the communities and the health facilities where the program is implemented. And then finally, transparency is another key value for the program. And this really underscores how we communicate, the planning, the coordination, and providing support to all the partners, and making sure that we're able to rise to the demands of the project collectively. Next slide. So this is just a snapshot of how the different partners come together. Zwandiri is the one that basically works at the first level, and this is around building that capacity for young people as peer educators, and we call them CATs. And then REPSI comes at the second level, and it integrates the psychosocial and mental health support. And we know that this is a very critical element when it comes to issues of adherence, but also in terms of making sure that it's a holistic approach towards the 490. And then PATA, as you know, is really our guru when it comes to providing support to health providers in the health facilities, as well as advocacy towards improved health outcomes. And then Y+ leads on the work around youth agency, education, and advocacy. We then have other partners that I mentioned earlier, like Congo and ADPP, and they serve as the lead organizations at a country level who are then responsible for bringing everyone together. Next slide. So what does this mean for health workers and health management? So our starting point when it comes to READY+ as a collaborative healthcare model is that young people are more than just their HIV diagnosis or their viral load suppression markers. And it's really important to recognize their mental health needs and other indicators that were also mentioned by the previous presenter. Young people have other needs and should be seen from a perspective of diversity and inclusion. And this is because in health facilities, one of the challenges that were coming up was that, for example, issues around sexual education or the lack of access to commodities was proving to be a problem. And so this is part of where the READY+ program comes in. We also recognize that young people's feedback is essential in driving youth-friendly service delivery, and thus supports the implementation of quality improvement plans, as well as the fact that young people deserve to be treated with respect. And so a big part of the READY program is really around building capacity of health providers along the peer educators in making sure that the clinical space or the health space is one that has mutual respect for all, as well as the fact that young people continue to face barriers to access to health, and hence the work around the legal and policy restrictions being really important. And so it's really important for health providers, health workers, and those that manage health systems to recognize that these are some of the challenges that young people face in our collective aspiration to attain the fourth 90. And these are the ones that as READY we are working on. Next slide, please. So what are the solutions and how is READY and READY Plus doing this work? This is a slightly smaller, I don't know if you can see this font very well, but one of the first solutions is that READY works at the intersection of SRHR and HIV. And this is in response to seeing young people more than just their HIV status. It includes service integration, it includes referral support and innovation. So we're constantly working at the edge of technology and medical innovations to ensure that we are able to keep up with the demand of what young people need in their evolving capacities. The second part is around young people's mental health and psychosocial support needs. And I've already spoken to this, that treatment adherence requires resilience, but it's also important that the health providers are able to see them beyond just pill dispensation and checking, just the viral load. But it's around the ability for health workers to be able to respond, in really youth-friendly interventions around what young people also need to be doing. Young people's needs beyond HIV, and this we're seeing across board, that often in health facilities, young people that come for HIV care need to also be referred for additional care and support. And so part of the READY work has been around building capacity to ensure that young people are also getting access to screening for NCDs and other health issues that we need to think about, and not just the HIV piece. But as READY, what we've also done was a recognition that many of our READY beneficiaries or clients tend to have holistic support and access to art, for example. But when they have other, health conditions, they tend to suffer in terms of really getting patient-centered support. So within the HIV space, through Pata's work, we've been able to really build this incredible sense of what youth-friendly service delivery is. But when they then go in the same facility to see another health provider, we're seeing that there's now a gap. So we're building support for health providers when it comes to HIV treatment, but when they go to orthopedic and other service centers, that work is not really translating through. And so it's really important for the health providers as well to start thinking about how do programs like READY Plus provide a much more holistic response in the health facility. And then I want to talk about young people's safeguarding and protection in facilities. So through READY, one of the things that keeps coming up is the discrimination, firstly, that young people face, especially those that are going into facilities for HIV treatment. And this sometimes is, things like health providers just shouting out the young people's health status, or just them not being safeguarded from abuse in the health facilities, or sometimes those that are based in the health facilities.
Tumi, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm almost done. Or how sometimes for peer educators that are facility-based, being sent to do other jobs that are not really part of the job description when it comes to programming. And so just really constantly thinking about how do we work with health providers to ensure that the facilities are also upholding safeguarding. And then finally, I spoke to issues of diversity and making sure that with health workers, we are able to respond to barriers like the discriminatory policies, like young key populations not accessing services and treatments in health facilities. And in a nutshell, this is how the Ready Plus program basically works to ensure that we're all collectively reaching the fourth 90. and so pardon me, I've got a cold. We're all collectively reaching the fourth 90 by centering young people in this response. Final slide, please. And I would be doing a disservice if I'm talking about a collaborative model without showing you the people that are actually behind the Ready Plus project. I'm sure some of you can see yourselves in this photo, those that are joining the Pata Summit. But really, Ready Plus is an impactful program reaching over 40,000 young people across Africa, and all thanks to this consortium-led approach that makes sure that we're reaching young people across all levels. Thank you so much, Moses.
Thank you very much. For those that were not able to hear earlier when I was trying to make my introduction of our second speaker was Miss Itumeleng Komanyane, who is an accomplished international gender and development expert committed towards advancing gender justice, human rights, and health in totality. She is the program lead at Frontline AIDS, based in South Africa, and Itumeleng was giving us her presentation around integrated holistic care beyond ART for adolescents. I want to encourage, I've seen comments coming through in the chat box, questions, comments, and supplements from our viewers and our listeners across Africa and beyond. I thank you very much. Please go ahead and continue sharing your comments, questions, and contributions. We shall get back to them in our final segment of this session. Finally, allow me move to my third presenter, who is Dr. Newton Donkola. And Dr. Newton is a medical doctor by profession, currently serving as the Advocacy and Health Promotions Program Manager for Kuparo, Zambia. He's passionate about finding ways to improve health outcomes for adolescents and young people through contextualized strategies that are sustainable and scalable. Dr. Donkola will be presenting on integrated holistic care beyond ART for young adolescents. You're welcome, Doctor. And over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Newton Donkola from Koparo, Zambia, where I'm currently serving as Advocacy and Health Promotions Program Manager. This afternoon, I'll be running you through a very brief, succinct presentation on transitioning to young adulthood in the context of the fourth 90. Through my presentation, I will run you through the concepts of the fourth 90, the background, self-care activities that one young person can do as a way of taking care of their well-being when they're living with HIV, as well as just what exactly does the fourth 90 strategy look like in this transitioning age period. Right away, we'll get into the concepts of my presentation. The key concepts we're going to be discussing is self-care, what young adult is, and what characterizes this period. So self-care is essentially the pushing behaviors to ensure a holistic well-being of oneself. We are moving past expecting or waiting to be taken care of our health by healthcare providers, but instead taking health into our own hands and doing the small steps that require us to take a holistic view of our health. So self-care practices are shaped by what are seen as proper lifestyle choices of local communities. Self-care starts from making the small choices as to how much rest you take in a day, how much water you take, and how much exercises you take. This helps us to take care of our health, but also to be active participants of curing ourselves in case we fall ill or prey to any diseases. The other concept we have to discuss in our discussion this afternoon is what young adulthood is and what characterizes this period. This period for most people is a transitional period. It's a period in which young people are moving, are completing school, getting into new jobs, leaving their families, starting relationships, getting on their economic individual journeys. As you might note, so many things are changing in the lives of these young people during this period. But even more so, for young people who are living with HIV, the changes are even more significant and harder to transition through for these young people. And hence today we will be discussing what transitioning through this period is in the context of the fourth 90. The background to our discussion this afternoon is understanding that whereas it is very important for us to ensure that the biomarkers for HIV, such as when ensuring that young people are tested, or adolescents and young people are tested for HIV, and consequent to that, that they are initiated on the right and appropriate drugs to help them through this journey as treatment to their infections, but also that they get to a point where they're virally suppressed is key. But additionally to that, we have to look into one other component. How exactly is the quality of life of these young adolescents and young people? Yes, they're on medication. Yes, they were tested. Yes, they're on medication. And some of them might actually be virally suppressed. But what is their quality of life? And that is what the fourth 90 seeks to understand and seeks to prove, because we're trying through the fourth 90 strategy to improve the quality of life for these young people. Additionally to them having access to all the other services that are provided through the other three strategies. It is noted through various studies that adolescents and young people living with HIV suffer a lot of mental health illnesses, dissatisfaction, depression, anxiety, stigma, and discrimination. There is also delayed leaving of parental homes, which increases the emotional and social, financial, as well as other support from families. There are difficulties with forming romantic and sexual relationships. As you may know, these are young people, these are adolescents and young people living with HIV. This in itself is enough of a reason for them to feel like they might not be worthy of being in relationships, and if they are, it's harder for them to foster healthy relationships. Additionally, they might also feel that they're not exactly available or made supported to have equal access as other young people that are not living with HIV. And that is essentially what the fourth strategy, the fourth 90 strategy, seeks to understand and to improve. That the quality of life of these young people that are living with HIV be as close as possible and even equal to those that are living without HIV. What we hope to attain through the fourth 90 strategy are increased coverage and access. We hope to reduce healthcare disparities and increase equity, as well as increase quality of services. Through this strategy, we also hope to improve health, human rights, and social outcomes, reduced cost and more efficient use of healthcare resources and services. The Health 90 has a lot to do with, the fourth 90 rather, has a lot to do with self-care. And when an individual is equipped with the knowledge and the technical know-how of taking care of their health while they live with HIV, this means that they not only stand a chance to actually not fall prey to many diseases that might come as a result of having HIV. And this means for an economic and from a larger perspective, from a country perspective, this has a lot to do with these young people not visiting these health facilities as frequent as possible, which means our health facilities will not be congested. And this means that a lot of our supplies at medical level are not spent curing diseases that these young people would have prevented by taking care of their health. So there's a lot that young people are to gain through improving self-care, even as we hope to attain the fourth 90. But additionally to that, at national and country and global level, or even regional levels, there's a lot more we have to gain when we enforce and ensure that we create a society where young people are able to practice their self-care in view of the fourth 90 strategy. What then is the role of adolescents and young people living with HIV with regards to their self-care? These young people have the incumbent role of understanding what it actually means or what it entails on their lives to be living with HIV in this world today. They have the responsibility of understanding what responsibilities come along with living with HIV and what that means in their day-to-day life. What foods they eat, how much rest they get, how they can observe and ensure that they adhere to their treatment, and them being able to adhere to this treatment and ensure that nothing gets in their way, because this is their life on the line. But additionally to that, they also have the responsibility of reporting any changes that they might see in their health to their healthcare providers and have these queries or illnesses attended to as soon as possible. And finally, amongst many other responsibilities they have the key responsibilities of reporting any disparities that they might feel that they're experiencing because they're living with HIV. This is so because only one that's currently experiencing or a given experience is well versed with the tools to explain certain challenges they might face to get the reasonable help that they need. Healthcare providers equally play a key role in ensuring that adolescents and young people living with HIV are able to attain the Forth90 strategy. In ensuring that this becomes a reality, all that they have to do, a lot that they have to do, speaks to creating a space that enables young people to feel at peace and free to access these services at health facility level, to ensure that these health facilities are stigma-free as much as possible. Healthcare providers also have the role of ensuring that these young people are equipped with a technical know-how of what it means to live with HIV and what self-care looks like in this particular context. They themselves have a role to ensure that they understand the specifics and the peculiarities that come with adolescence and young adulthood. What are the specific needs of this age group and how best can you serve them to ensure that they feel properly and rightly attended to? Additionally, healthcare providers play an incumbent role of linking the health facility to the community and ensuring that this community is well educated on what HIV is, what living with HIV entails, and what their role as a community is in supporting people and adolescents and young people living with HIV. They also have the role of identifying individuals in need of self-care interventions, as well as demonstrate and provide instructions for correct use of self-care interventions. In our context, as an organization, as a youth-led and youth-focused organization, how we undertake self-care is by working hard to ensure that there is information and awareness raising of available sexual and reproductive health, as well as HIV commodities at community level. You cannot ask for what you do not know exists. Therefore, we work to ensure that adolescents and young people living with HIV are well aware of the wide gamut of services that is available to them in their community health posts or clinics. But additionally to that, at policy level, we are working tirelessly advocating for the availability of commodities at these very facilities to ensure that services such as self-testing kits are available at facility level. This is so because in as much as we work to create demand for these services at community level, if these young people eventually come to the facility, when they come to the facility and they do not find these commodities, our works are then in vain. Therefore, we are working both at community level for information and awareness raising, but also at policy level, district and national levels, to ensure that these commodities are rightly distributed across the country and that young people actually have access to these services. Some of the challenges we have faced thus far is a general reluctance to understand the importance of self-care and its far-fetched benefits. We still think self-care is an option that we just take on as and when it works for us. But as we have discussed during this presentation, self-care is necessary for us in attaining the Forth90 strategy, but additionally is very helpful for us at district, national, regional, continental, and even at global level to ensure that resources that we will spend on curing diseases are held back because people are taking care of their health at community level and family level and are not falling prey to unnecessary health illnesses. This is good for our countries, this is good for our regions, but additionally so, it is good for that adolescent and young person now living with HIV when they are equipped with the necessary tools to take care of their health. Thank you very much for listening through this presentation. I will take any questions from here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dankola, for such a commendable presentation. At this same time, I want to thank all our panelists for their amazing submissions and contributions to this PATA Summit 2023. I also want to thank all our online audience for the commendable work they are doing with following this discussion and the contributions in the chat box. I have a question that I want to send to me. We have a question from Vivian, who is based in Cameroon, who talked about, or who was asking about the work you're doing around Ready Plus as being a collaborative model. What active role do young people play in this model? You could have talked about it previously, but please elaborate it more in the interest of our viewers. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Moses. I've already actually typed the answer in the chat box, but for the benefit of a larger audience. So the Ready Plus model is completely centered on young people. From the creation of the concept of Ready Plus as a model to the implementation, as well as having one of the consortium partners be a wholly youth-led, youth-centered, and youth-serving organization that was also incubated as part of the mentorship process around building capacity of fledgling youth organizations in the SRHR space, an organization that has now become fully independent and functioning at global levels as a recognized entity in the space. But in terms of just really the clarity around how young people are involved in the program itself, like I said, the program was conceptualized with young people around the table. So this is really true co-creation with young people. And typically, we don't speak for young people. I think it was just for today at PATA that I was requested to do this presentation. We live on the mantra of doing development differently, and this means being able to recognize young people as able agents in their health outcomes. And so firstly, it's young people as users of health facilities, young people as support to health workers in the health facilities, young people as peer educators to support other young people living with HIV, and finally, young people as the leading voices when it comes to advocacy for various issues around HIV and SRHR treatment. So we don't speak for them, they get to speak for themselves. They sit on these significant advisory committees, and they make sure that they bring the voices of all the other young people with them into these spaces.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Itumeleng. You're talking about bringing young people and adolescents to the table and having them contribute. My next question goes to Yolande, and this is a question that is coming from Nicole Flowers. And she's saying it appears to be a lot of overlap between the M2M services and the OVC services that are being offered. Is there any collaboration between the two programs? And if so, can you describe how they complement each other? Over to you. You are muted. Please, you may need to unmute. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Nicole, just to say that there is a lot of overlap, and because it's a community-based program, there is referrals. We do create referrals and linkages to different services. And one of the first activities that our peer mentors do is to make sure that they know who all the different service delivery partners are, and who the other projects and links could be. So when they do happen upon a household, where which vulnerable children live, or orphans or other vulnerable children, they are then able to make referrals. And in the same way, the OVC programs can then also refer to the facilities where our peer mentors are based. So there is a lot of bidirectional referring happening. Don't know if that answers your question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then we also have a question that is coming in from Pride Community Health Organization. They say, is there any service intervention that can be done, especially on those CLHIV with poor parenting skills? If any, what could be the solution? I think I would drop this question to Yolanda. You could briefly talk about it in about a minute or two, then I will push it also to Newton. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yes, so as you can see, parenting support, I wouldn't say parenting training, because I think most people are good parents and we try and work from there. We then support parents through household visits. We support parents at the facility within community gatherings for that. And yeah, it's part of the parenting support, is part of the package that the parent can access. And we have a very specific focus on adolescent parents because we know that they need extra support in terms of parenting. Thank you. So over to Newton.
Thank you. Newton, over to you.
Hi, Moses. Thank you very much for the question, and good afternoon to everyone on the call. So with regards to the question, there's a lot that can be done to ensure that we leverage on the parenting scheme or program that young people actually have the right services the way they should be. And this is so because all through our presentations this afternoon, as you might have noticed through the Mentor Mothers, the Ready Plus, and even the work that we're doing as Corporate of Zambia, we do understand the key role that the community plays. And it's up to us as healthcare providers, as programmers, as policymakers and decision makers to ensure that we're leveraging on all points of contact with these parents, with specificity obviously to adolescent and young people that are parents as well, and ensuring that they are actually equipped with the right technical know-how of how to take care of people suffering or living with HIV. This is also incumbent upon healthcare providers themselves to ensure that our systems support them with the right knowledge and technical know-how of how to manage such patients. But also, the onus is also on the community and us working with the community to ensure that they are aware of what their role is in ensuring that people that are living with HIV, adolescents and young people specifically, actually have the right services and that they're receiving these services with quality. Thank you very much, Moses.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I will still throw this same question back to you again. Dr. Newton, this is coming from Tita Woki, and he's asking, is it possible to fully achieve the fourth 90 without the inclusion of caregivers? Because in Africa, they play a vital role in their children's career. That is Tita from Cameroon. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Tita, for the question. I would say absolutely not. I think we all have a key role to play. I believe we all have a key role to play in achieving the 90. And this, like I mentioned in our presentation, it starts from the community through to the healthcare providers, through to the programmers, people working at advocacy levels. And that's what we are doing it as an organization, as Corporate Zambia, as we work with our communities, is to ensure that our community are aware, specifically adolescents and young people living with HIV are aware of the services that they need to attain, that are for the services that are available to them, the gamma of services available to them. But additionally to that, it's also incumbent upon us and healthcare providers themselves to understand what role they have to play in this bigger picture, right? They are the ones who have the responsibility of ensuring that health facilities themselves are confidential for young people and privacy is guaranteed for young people. So I don't see a way that we can achieve the fourth 90 strategy without fully working with healthcare providers, because they are in the front lines of this battle. And when they are properly equipped with the right skills, the right commodities and everything that they need to provide quality services, attaining the 490 strategy through hardships still stands as a possibility. So I think everybody has a role to play. The community has a role to play. The healthcare providers have a role to play. District, provincial, national policymakers and decision makers have a role to play. The civil society as well has a key role to play. And there is no achieving this without the frontliners themselves, the healthcare providers, taking their stance fully. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Newton. Wow, there are quite very many questions, but unfortunately we are running short on time. And I would like to just, allow me take this as a wrap up. But as you give your key messages to wrap up your presentations, all my three presenters, I would, when you're giving your key message, I would also like you to slightly, just within a minute or less, how can we promote self-care among adolescents and young people living with HIV in relation to mental health? So answer that question and then give your key message, and then we shall wrap up this session. I will start with Yolande, and then I'll move to Itumeleng, and I will end with Dr. Newton. The floor is yours.
Thanks very much. So just on the issue of the closing message, really, just to say that as you've seen in the work that I presented, that for us to achieve the fourth 90 or the fourth 95, it requires multiple stakeholders. The healthcare worker is not going to be able to do this by him or herself with the greatest of commitment. It is really, we have to draw in people, other service providers, other stakeholders to be able to support the healthcare workers, to be able to provide this package of services for the child and the caregiver to be able to reach their full potential. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Itumeleng.
Thank you, Moses. For all of us to reach the fourth 90 or 95, definitely we need to place young people at the center of the HIV response, as well of all overall HIV and health promotion work. It's important that we see young people in the full agency and to recognize that there are more and there's so much more that they can do in driving the changes that we want to see. But I'd like to just underscore a particular issue around what it also means for the fourth 90 to be achieved. We need to go back to the basics of making sure that information around HIV and education is brought back into the public forums. We need to make sure that young people are meaningfully included in design and co-creation processes. And most importantly, that young people are recognized as the first line change agents in this response. Thank you so much, Moses.
Hi, Moses, thank you very much. So with regards mental health, my take is mental health is important. But when we talk about health-related quality of life in the context of the fourth 90, it is even much so a reality for adolescents living with HIV, because they're transitioning through this very difficult period where so much is happening. And when you're doing all these transitions whilst living with HIV, this becomes even heavier. And mental health cannot be understated. It is a very key component to address if we're really going to attain a health-related quality of life that is up to standard for these adolescents and young people. For healthcare providers, I do strongly believe that we cannot ask from them what we do not capacitate them to do. So if we're going to talk about mental health, we have to ensure that our healthcare providers are actually up to speed with what it is to offer these services, taking into consideration the mental health status of the young people that they are offering the services to. Additionally, it goes back to the community. We need to understand what are the implications of a community that does not understand what it truly means to have young people living with HIV, and what is their role that they play? What is the impact of stigma on these young people that are living with HIV? And finally, with where adolescents and young people themselves are consulted, as earlier alluded to by other speakers, we need to consult these young people. that are living with HIV and get to understand from them what services they actually need and how they want these services delivered up to them. They have the answers, they have the understanding because they have the experience of what it is to live with HIV in this time period and this era of their lives. So this would be my take. And finally, I will always stress the point of ensuring that our policymakers and decision makers are always involved in these programs, because they are the ones that create an environment where even self-care itself is possible to practice and to live by in our countries. Thank you very much, Moses.
Thank you very much, my three presenters. Thank you very much, Yolande, Baker from Mothers to Mothers South Africa. Thank you very much, Itumeleng Komanyane from Frontline AIDS, and finally, thank you very much, Dr. Newton Dankole from Koparo, Zambia. I remain Bwire Moses from Uganda, who has been your chair for this session. And please, let's continue enjoying the PATA Summit, which is still continuing. And we wish you the best of luck for God and my country and the best of Africa. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.